G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We've got the final installment of our best 17s. We fucking got there. How good. It has been one hell of a journey, and I apologise to you Manly fans. Your team has been left till last. Just a few things got in the way and whatnot. But to be honest with you, when I look at this Manly side, I think most of it picks itself. There's just a couple of things, obviously, with the injury at hooker and whatnot. But I think most of it picks itself. There's a hard decision to make in the back line. But we sort of spoke about it on Bloke the other day, so you're probably already aware of what I want to do with this side. But we will go through it. The Manly Seagulls, I think it's looking like a good season for them. I'm not sure if they can win a comp as it stands right now. But I do think that they can give it a really good shake. I have got them finishing fourth at the moment. I think they will probably be the worst team in the top four, if I'm completely honest, but I do think they will be a step above the teams in the bottom four of the top eight. So an interesting year for Manly. They just need to take that last step for me where they're real proper contenders instead of just sort of being the best at filling spaces in the finals. Maybe that's harsh, but that's just how I feel about Manly. I don't feel like they're in that elite class, can genuinely win a comp just yet. But I'd love to be proven wrong this year because it would be an unreal story. Let's start at fullback. Tommy Turbo obviously picks himself. Always conversations about him moving to centre, 5'8", anywhere else. I think fullback is his best spot. He is the best fullback in the world on his day. And he's essentially the best fullback in the world when he's just upright. So Turbo, I think he has to be the guy in the fullback jersey. He would be my number one. On the wings, look, Jason Saab obviously picks himself, a tremendous athlete, a great finisher. I think that a few years ago, Saab was a winger that he was just fast and he just relied on being fast. And I think people still look at him that way. What I've loved about his game over the last 2 years is how much he's added. He's obviously a great aerial target and whatnot, a great finisher, but the work he does coming out of his own end now, because he is a pretty big frame, I've been really impressed with how he's developed. He could have just stayed as the fast guy for his entire career and got by. I love that he's doing more work coming out of his own end. So I'm a big fan of Saab. Look, I've said for a long time I'd play Ruben Garrick on the wing. I still would. I think he can play centre. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. He is an absolute elite winger. He would be my winger, Ruben Garrick. They will play him in the centres, and I understand that, guys. This is my best 17. The likely 17, you can find them on social media and everywhere you want to look. I would play Garrick on the wing still in my best team, which means my centres would be Kohler. And this was the last tough decision, Hopewate or Tommy Talau. I've gone for Hopewate there. I think the kid is just too good to leave out. Is he a centre? No, but he's a natural freak and he just has to be in the team somewhere. If you want to swap Garrick into the centre and put Hopewate on the wing, you won't hear any pushbacks from me. It'll still work. This is just the team that I would go for. So my centres, Kohler and Hopewate. I'm giving Hopewate a license to do whatever the fuck he wants. I genuinely think he could be one of the best players in the game over the next couple of years. So that's my back line. Tommy Talau is the unlucky man, but we will get to him very soon because I've got a bit of a different role for Tommy Talau. Taniela Paseka, I think he had an injury the other day. Apparently he's been cleared. He's good to go. He starts in the front row, and I would also start with Toff Sipley. Really good character, really good team guy. Not a superstar by any means, but I think he's a good guy to have out there for the first 20 minutes. Just get through his work. You probably leave Paseka on until the 30th minute. I think he's got a slightly bigger motor. But Toff Sipley, you just need role players in your team sometimes, and I think how they will use their bench rotation, I think he's a good guy to start there. So give me Sipley and Paseka in the front row. Hooker, look, Croker would be my first choice, yeah? He's injured at the moment. I'm not quite sure when he returns. Rumours that Jazz Tavanga can start at 9. And look, Jazz can do a job there. I just don't love him at hooker. I think it's a little bit of a waste. I would have Jakey Simpkin in the side, and I would have him as my hooker. There's a world where I could understand you starting with Jazz at hooker for the first 20 minutes, bring Simpkin off the bench. I can completely get around that. But I think Simpkin is capable of playing big minutes. I would just leave him there. Once again, you want to start Jazz, bring Simpkin off the bench. I can completely get around that too. So that's how I would deal with the hooker rotation. I think Simpkin is up to playing decent minutes, and I think he'd do it well there. On the edges, I have got Hamole Olakwatu over on the right. Had a tremendous last 3 or 4 years. He's really emerged as one of the premier back rowers in rugby league. Similar to Jason Saab, probably could have relied on just being the biggest and the strongest forward in the comp. Instead, he absolutely works his dick off constantly. So much work out of his own end, takes tough carries, gets through a lot of defensive efforts. I really like Olakwatu, and I'm glad to see him in the leadership group for the Manly Seagulls. On the other edge, look, I'm going to go with Burbo. I don't think he's anywhere near even close to reaching his potential at the moment. I think when he does, he's going to be a terrifying prospect. I think he's got a lot to work on. I think that, potentially we're a little bit harsher on Ben simply because of his last name. We're comparing him to Tom and Jake, which is just, the reality of it, I think. But I think Burbo, I think he's maturing each year, and I think that breakout year is coming. I thought it was going to be last year. I'm not convinced it's going to be this year after what I saw last season, to be honest with you, but I think it is coming, and I think he can do a good job there. Other options like your Corey Waddells of the world and whatnot can do a job there, but I do want to give Burbo the opportunity because I think he's got the highest ceiling of those guys. And I think they just need to get reps and experience into him. Jersey 13, Jake Travojevic. He is an absolute shit-in this side, in this spot. Obviously the beating heart of the Manly Seagulls. He will be in the 13. My bench. This is where I would have Tommy Talau. He is a big enough body to be able to jump on through the middle. It gives you great coverage for your outside backs. A few of those outside backs in particular have got injury concerns, as we know. If you were to have an injury to the halves, you could shuffle guys around and put Turbo into the 6 role or Lehigh in there. Tommy Talau could come on. So he just covers a lot of spots for you. And I personally think there's a world later in his career, similar to his old man, when he ends up being an edge forward. And I think that if he was given the opportunity in a 14 jersey just to come on and roam through the middle and play as a bit of a loose forward, I think you could have a big impact. So I know he was fantastic last year, and I feel really bad for him, missing out on the starting side in the back line, but there's just too much talent in this side. You can't fit them all in. I want to have Tommy Talau on the side because I think he's too good not to be in there. So I think coming off the bench is a bit of a loose forward coverage for the outside backs. I think it could be a really good spot for him. And I think that if he was to be in a game where an edge forward went down and he had to jump into that role, I personally think he would excel. So Tommy Talau, I'd have him in jersey 14 for me. My bench forwards, I would have Nathan Brown. He was tremendous last year, a great signing for the Manly Seagulls. A bit of a culture guy there as well. I think they really needed, with all due respect, a bit of an arsehole on this side. And I think Brown brings that in absolute spades. I've always been a huge fan of him. So he'll be on the bench, jersey 15. Jersey 16, I'm really excited about Takiaho. When they signed him, I thought, okay, he'll play for 25, 30 minutes maybe. He's only been gone for 2 years. Tim Williams pointed out the other day that when he was over in the Super League, he actually didn't play that many games. So he's probably feeling reasonably fresh. And when I watched him in the first trial the other day for the Seagulls, I'll give you the hot tip, he looked fucking fresh and ready to go. So I'm really excited about Takiaho. There's actually a world where I can see him starting. He looked that good to me. So I think he's going to be one of the probably one of the underappreciated signings of season 2025. So Takiaho there. My last jersey is jersey 17, Jazz Tavanga coming over from the New Zealand Warriors. And I cannot wait to look down at that bench for the Manly Seagulls and see two lunatics, Nathan Brown and Jazz, geeing each other up, ready to go, because those two are going to come on the field and cause absolute fucking havoc. As I said, Jazz can jump into 9. He can play a role there. I just prefer him going through the middle, though. I think his leg speed, nice little offload. He's just got an error or two in his game that he needs to sort out. If he can lock that down and get that out of his game, though, I'm telling you, there is a fucking fantastic forward in Jazz. And once again, I want Takiaho sitting on the bench, the old guy who can just, the matured guy who can just keep it all together. Then I want Brown and Tavanga just locking horns and geeing each other up to get on that field and cause havoc. I think it's actually a really good bench. I really like it for the Seagulls. Their depth also, I don't mind. Josh Allier hasn't made my side. I've never been the biggest fan of him as a footballer. I just think he's very sort of middle of the road. But if you have an injury in your forward pack, you have to bring him in. I mean, I absolutely love that. I think he's fantastic depth. Ethan Bullamore's another one that hasn't made this side that I also think is a very handy player. Like, I actually found it really hard to leave him out of this side. And there's a world where he could potentially take Jazz's spot depending on form and whatnot. But I think Ethan Bullamore's another one that I absolutely love having in this squad. When you have a look at, the outside backs that haven't made the team, you've got Shop, you've got Fualalau, you've got, young Joey Walsh, Jake Arthur, Vega. There's just so many talented guys, not to mention Tommy Talau hasn't made the starting side. Outside backs, they've honestly got too many to deal with. Forwards, the guys I mentioned before, you've also got like Gordy Chan Kum Tong, who's not in the side. Dean Madison, who can play 5'8" on the weekend, is obviously the younger or older, I'm not sure, of Ryan Madison, a very handy guy, can play lock or 6, younger brother he is. You've got James as well, who's a forward that I like, came over from the West Tigers. Corey Waddell's solid. There's a lot of guys in this team that I really, really like. So Manly Seagulls, they are ticking a lot of boxes for me. I think they're looking good heading into season 2025. I am tipping them for a top 4 berth, but if I'm completely honest, which I always am with you guys, I'm not completely convinced they are premiership contenders. I would love to see them take that jump this year, and I'd love to see them take that jump before DCE retires or leaves. I'd love to see DCE win a comp, especially with Jake and Tommy. I think that'd be unreal. Another Hopewade winning a Manly premiership would be something pretty special too, and Ruben Garrick, Olakuatu. I really like this squad. I know Manly's, they've got a history of everyone has to hate them. I love all the guys in this team and everything I've had to do with them. They've been tremendous, and it'd be great, fucking unreal to see Brooksy win a premiership as well. I'd love to see that. I'm actually not sure. Did I completely skip over the halves? I might not have mentioned them, but they pick themselves. DCE and Brooks in the halves. Bit of a bed shit by me there, but I apologise. We're 17 teams in. I'm hanging on by a rugby league thread. You'll be okay. Brooks at 5'8", DCE at 7. All right, guys, thanks for joining us for the best 17s for season 2025. We've timed it pretty well, heading to Vegas in a couple of days. Round 1 kicking off. Plenty of content still to come your way on the Rugby League Guru podcast.